Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pets, People, Life, and Longevity. I am Jan Nase, and I'm here with my canine companion, Tonka, who is like craving attention today. So a little bit about me. I'm a trained scientist who began exploring holistic and alternative healing about 18 years ago. I began my journey with the use of essential oils and began exploring other modalities that were kind of an adjunct to traditional veterinary care, Reiki, gentle massage, some types of energy work. And I work with pets, but I also work with people. I am the co-author of the top-selling essential oil book, Spoil Your Pet, a practical guide to using essential oils in dogs and cats. And today I'm here with Lesley, and I'm so excited. Lesley comes to us from Vermont. And so I'll share a little bit about her and then we'll get started. So Lesley is a lovely woman I met from at a meeting. So that was just great. And also does a lot of work with pets. So I knew right away that I wanted to chat with her. She is the creator and CEO of Intuitive Animal Healing and is a certified core communication coach for businesses. She is the host of Books, Yarns, and Tales on Win-Win Women, which is available on Win-Win Women TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Her podcast, The Client Whispers, is set to be released in 2023. That sounds really great. Her gift and her passions have allowed her to help people and pets access their innate healing abilities, to get to the root of their imbalances and restore themselves to optimal health naturally and holistically. She guides others through insight and wisdom as an intuitive, shamanic healing practitioner, frequency healing coach, and end-of-life specialist. And so welcome, Lesley.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a delight, and it was a delight when we first met, and to be able to be here now is another delight. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So let's jump right in. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about, I've always been interested in shamanic healing practices and shamanism in general. So why don't you tell us a little bit about shamanism? I'd really love to hear more about that and whether it differs if you're thinking about using shamanism on a person or on a pet.
First of all, energy is energy. So we're all energetic beings, whether we are people or whether we are animals, pets, or we're full of light and molecules and vibrations that move. So there is no difference. Yet some people gravitate more toward the people end of things in your practice, and some gravitate more toward the animal aspect of it. In shamanic practice is a ancient tradition across the whole world, and it really indigenous people lived closer to the land than we do now, and they got their messages from Mother Earth and from Father Sky, but also from the four elements of the water, again, the earth, the wind, and fire. So it's a very nature-based aspect, and shamans do what's called journey work. So there are three levels, three worlds that a shaman will journey to. And a journey is like going into a meditation. You usually use a rattle or a drum in which to go into deep meditation really quickly. And you have an intention of where you're going to travel and what you're going to do. So if I travel to the lower world, that's the place where I find guardians and animals who are my guides there through that. And quite often, if somebody asks me to connect to a loved one who's passed, that's the way that I go. And I mean, again, both Most often, I work with people who want to know about their pets and when they passed, how are they? Is everything okay? Did I do what I wanted, that I could do for them the best? Do they know that? So I go down and talk to a guardian who then says, yes, I can travel deeper and go to the other side, and then like having a conversation, although there's no words. But it's also another place of healing as well and information. So that's the lower world. The middle world is where we all live, right here, right now. Um, there is, there are, and well, I don't know if I'd say entities, but there are spirits who live within this middle world. And so shamans travel there too. It's oftentimes that I may be called to a house or land that I have to clear. And it's just helping either a spirit that's stuck, an energy that's moving, not moving, to move on and just dissipate. It is not bad. It's not good. It just is sometimes, and it needs to move. So that's kind of a brief description there. And then is the upper world is not what you would call heaven or but it is that feeling of going up. If I think of a tree, you've got the roots of the tree, and the tree can help you go the lower world. The the bark on it, the trunk is like the middle world, and so the leaves and branches that go up into the sky are like the upper world, and it's one way in which to travel. And in this place, this is where you find your guides. And these guides are luminous beings. Sometimes they're more androgynous than they are male or female, but it's another kind of deep wisdom and place in which you travel to go there. So I always love how shamans work many times in finding their path to shamanism. And it was kind of like no different for me to find that way there than some of the others. I happened to be at a meeting where I went early with a friend who had told the owner of the house that I could walk through and tell her about any of the ghosts that live in her house, so to say. And I said, "Oh, okay, let's go do this." So I did a walkthrough, and I identified places which she said, "Oh, yes, yes, yes." And this house was very old in the Revolutionary War, so I gave her some insight to that. But she was holding a meeting in her house, and two other people had shown up, so we had the meeting. And I clicked right away with these two people who happened to have a center for shamanism, and they were teaching. They invited me to a discovery meeting that they were having. And I was like, wow, I can't wait to go. And I'm telling all my friends, I think I had about four people who were going to go with me down to this information and learn a little about journey work and hear the drum, and hear the rattle, and hear what was going on. Only that night, before I was going, it rained so hard. And every one of my other friends, something happened, whether they were sick or didn't want to go or what was it. So I ended up going by myself, driving down in the pouring rain. And I am not good when it comes to time. I am perpetually just a little bit late. I get down to the place where it's being held, and it's an old mansion that was turned into a college. So you're walking through these stone archways into the garden before you go into the building and into their um, theater room. And as I walk in, the rain had stopped, and I started hearing the sound of an owl talking to me. And it's just so typical for myself to stop and talk to whatever animal is talking to me at that time because it's quiet, nobody else is around, and I just always thought the message was for me. So I started talking back. The the unique thing was as I walked into the theater room after talking, it's all dark. They were just about ready to start the journey. I sat down, had an amazing journey, ended up connecting and saying yes to these people. I wanted to take the course. And then I found out that owl was their spirit animal, their totem animal of the land and of the work that they were doing. So it was like I was being called by owl. and everything works in divine order.
It's a remarkable story. I love the idea of um, calling upon those things. And I guess my question to you, because animals are so much more connected to the earth than we are, especially, or
Hmm.
I want to say the elements, earth, the different areas that you were talking, different worlds,
Right.
that do they have the ability to, like, basically for the, I don't want to say lay person, but for the person who may not be in touch. So I think everybody has that ability, like the
Hmm.
ability you have, but I think that it's not cultivated and they choose not to focus on it. So, but do animals definitely get messages from the earth, that middle world where there might be spirits? Because I have a few different instances where I wonder whether that happened. And then myself with when I was with clients, or and then the upper world. So are they that, are they, because they're so much more in touch with stuff like that than we are.
They are. Their consciousness is a little bit different than ours. Uh, Mine are actually looking out at a squirrel right now. So, um, yeah, so the alarm has gone off. They are very much in touch with the world. In fact, it was they were all asleep and all quiet just now, and that squirrel made some kind of noise. They all got up and just went to the door to go look. But to answer your question of the spirits in the middle world, I think more than anything else, you might be asking is the answer is yes. You know, and I'm going to take the example of when an animal passes away. You'll find that if you've got more than one pet in your household, you they'll all come and they'll check out who it is who's sick, and they'll act differently because they know what's going on. They know either it's this animal's time to heal and be back, or they know the scent and that it's ready to get passing on. So they all react a little differently, some positively and some not so positively. But once everything settles and that animal passes on, there are some times that you will find one of your pets who are still with you kind of glazing over and looking off to the side. And yeah, they're seeing the spirit of that animal. Many times, animals in particular don't leave us right away. They came into our life with a purpose and kind of this agreement that, yes, we're going to be part of your life at this time, and we're going to help you through this, and we're going to be your partner in this, and then, it'll be time for us to pass, but we don't totally leave you. And many times they hang around just to make sure that their person or persons are okay, because it's hard for us as humans, that grief of losing someone who we love, and especially an animal, because they just give us such unconditional love. And that they're there 24/7 right by your side. So it can be hard, and that kind of spirit knows and will hang around, but it doesn't hang around always. That's one of the questions people ask me. Will they always be with me? No. The same for people. People who pass on won't always be with us. Will they be there if you need them and call them? Yes. But like anything else, energy changes and shifts and has something else in life to do, and a different form and a different evolution, if you will, to their own spirit and to their own soul.
It's so interesting because I know my own experience. I know that after my dog passed away, I used to see glimpses. She was beige. She was like, cream colored. And I used to
Yeah,
see
yeah,
like flashes of a run. And I would be like, that's her. And all
right.
my cats have always done it, where I'll
Mm-hmm.
see like a flash of orange, or my last cat was gray. And all of a sudden I'll be like, oh my gosh, that was Chan. And I know, I mean, I acknowledge it
Yeah.
because I really truly believe it's him, but I acknowledge it because I do know and feel that presence. And as you were talking, I was reminded of a client of mine who lost a family member, and we do meditations in the, what was a space that was
Mm-hmm.
where she lived for a while and also used to spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
And when I was working with her dog, every now and then she would bark and or she would look off and I would be like, she's seeing her or him,
Yeah. Yeah.
which my client used to ask me and I used to always say yes. And now I love your explanation and your sharing of that um, pertinent insight. And so that is really beautiful. And I agree with you about the grief. I think loss of a pet is so different than loss of a human because of that
Absolutely.
unconditional love. And basically, I don't know that most people can't recall someone who loved a person that loved them like that. People love us, but people a lot of times have, not to fault of their own, but do have an agenda. Like they
Right.
have a purpose and they have something that, if it's parents, and I love my parents to pieces, but they basically have an idea of what they want their child's life to look like.
Hmm.
And so I think with an animal, their only job is to love. It's really their purpose here is to love us and support us.
It is. It
And
is.
so we feel that so keenly when it's gone. And
You know,
so, yeah,
I
please.
was just going to say to that that one of the things that people will say to me quite often is, about their loss and their grief of their pet is that they'll go, but you don't understand. It is my soul animal. And like a soulmate, a soul animal, and to that end, you may have a soul partner, a soul mate, or a soul animal, but it doesn't mean that they're going to stay with you forever, and it doesn't mean that you're going to get along in this lifetime either, because all that soul connection means is that you come together, whether it's for a moment or whether it's for a lifetime, because some interaction needs to take place.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's, we can't, I don't try and categorize something as good or bad, but, for whatever reason that is, that connection is there. And it just kind of happens, and it's when it's done, and it's time for moving on.
Yeah, I just love what you're saying because I firmly agree. I always say we're given the animals or the people that we need in our
Right.
lives to however you want to frame it, to offer us insight and a learning experience
Mm-hmm.
for us to grow
Yeah.
and to expand. And I always looked at my animals like that because they taught me
Yeah.
so much and very different things. Every pet that I've ever had um,
Right.
has been there to teach me something else. And I was having this conversation yesterday with somebody, and we were talking about the passing on of pets or people. This idea that sometimes people need permission to actually. I mean, I believe that my dog was like that. I mean, I think
Mm-hmm.
she had to know that I was going to be okay.
Right.
And finally, at the end, I said to her, "Don't worry, I'll be fine. Like mom's going to
Yeah.
be fine." And then she passed because I really think that she felt like she had to protect me. She had to be here. And once I gave her my consent or my love and said, please, please, if you
Yeah.
need to rest, you've done your job right now. And you'll never be far. I don't want to
Yeah.
cry, but you'll never be far from
No,
my
no,
heart.
and
And
that's beautiful. That's really perfect about what you said. Because when I work with people at the end of life and help them through this time, there's a lot of times that, I get calls because they've been to the veterinarian, and the veterinarian might say, "There's nothing more I can do." And people are going, well, wait a minute, this isn't making sense to me. There's got to be something more. And there are a lot of times, like you with your essential oils, I get sense of smell like an animal, a dog. Yes, they have got a great sense of smell, and so it's like, yeah, all right. I think this is whatever the scent is, and having someone in your like you in my back pocket say, ah, okay, go talk to Chan because she can help you with that area. And or doing many times I might get chiropractic care or allopathic, homeopathic. There, I want to say too much in one word. Acupuncturist. All of those modalities of healing can work. And I do frequency healing, and I use a little healing device called a Keely, which also works. So there are things that can work before you get to that point of when an animal's ready to pass or it's not ready to pass. But there is a point in time that you're talking about that, again, we are emotionally attached human beings. We would like to know how is our animal feeling? Are they okay? Are they in pain? Are they ready or not ready? I don't want to make a decision for them if they're not ready. And what we're doing when we do that, we're so caught up in our own emotion and our own stress and our own being that we're not opening up to the moment and really looking at what's happening. Now, we're going to talk about dogs because mine's going and yours is right next to you. When you hold on to that leash, your energy goes right down that leash and into that dog. And however you're feeling, they're picking up on that too. And if you're not have, that's a perfect example of what entanglement is in quantum physics because you're intertwined with their energy. They're picking up on your cues. What are you really saying and feeling is what they're picking up on, not necessarily the words right away.
Hmm.
But if you make peace with inside yourself and understand that I've done everything that I can and that it's time to let go, and you make that decision, you'll find that you kind of go, okay, I let go. And that breath of really relaxing and letting go is a cue to your
Mm.
pet to say, okay, they got it. Okay, I can let go as well.
As you said that, that entanglement, because people will ask me all the time if I do Reiki on my pets, because I do Reiki on
Mm-hmm.
clients, and I'll be usually not. I said, because I'm too emotionally entangled and
Right.
I don't necessarily get a really good picture. Just like you were talking sense, I'll get very deep insights on essential oils for pets and
Yeah.
what they should need and what they do need and things like that. And I always go to friends or other people when I'm
Right.
talking or I'm thinking about myself included, because I have my emotional stuff with myself and I'll also with my
Mm-hmm.
pets. And it's so interesting, but I don't normally do it on my own animals. I mean, I will, but it's not like if I really have something,
Right.
maybe on a daily basis, but if I really have something going on that I'm like, okay, this is a real health issue or an emotional issue, then I'm going to go to what I call us pet
Right.
professional.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky enough that my vet actually does things like emotional code. She has someone who does
Mm-hmm.
Reiki in her office. She does acupuncture and things like that. So I'll go to her because for some things, yeah.
Right. Right. So this is where our own intuition, like you said, everybody has the talents and abilities, but have we cultivated our own intuition, our own awareness enough to open up our senses to be kind of in tune with what's happening in our natural world? And that includes our pets. It's very easy in some ways for you to communicate to your pet. You're doing that naturally every day. You're picking up on cues. Now, the dog is my youngest one that who keeps seeing something. He had birth trauma, so he has a little how would I say that? Nervous disorder. He's got some muscles that in his back that make it hard for him. So he prancing and dancing. So when he sees that squirrel outside, he's like so full of energy that he's just got to keep going to dissipate the energy. But it's dissipated because nobody else is fed into it. Not the other two dogs, not myself. Nobody's feeding into that. And that squirrel may have just disappeared and gone off somewhere. So there wasn't anything for me to interfere with that. And yes, there's a point that we second guess ourselves. So when I teach people, I teach them the pendulum is one thing that we can use, but some people don't work well with pendulums. So I teach them muscle testing, and it is something that you have to be confident about and know about yourself. And everything is about intention. And this is where the communication comes in really strongly. Whether I'm communicating in pictures, feelings, and actions from a pet, or whether I'm communicating the same way with a person, but now a person is using words to put out to what they want. So the intent of what we say on our words are so important when we're dealing with our own pets. So if your intention is coming from your head, then you've got a lot of logical stuff's happening, and that's not where your intuition comes from. Your intuition is that gut feeling and your heart. Your heart's a huge generator. And when you open it up and get quiet and get in tune with the heart doesn't lie. The head is going to tell you all kinds of things going on. So, one of the healing modalities that I've really enjoyed learning about is the Healy again. I'll put it up because my intention is to help my animals or myself, you know, deal with whatever I'm looking to do. So whether it's do you got a food allergy? It's my oldest dog. It's like you're itching. Let's see, and I do a little scan with them to see what's going on within their body. And then the scan will tell me, oh, they need more of microbiome, or maybe they have a little bit of pain, or maybe they're a little anxious. And so I can run a healing frequency for them. And it's a short, animals pick it up so quickly and easy. It's like a minute and 2 seconds, or 2 minutes. It's kind of the top for that. And it is something that less is more. So you're doing it over time, and they pick up that frequency and they feel better. Even when I run my personal frequencies, they get the benefit of what's happening with me because, again, we're entangled and we're part of what's going on in that environment.
My old dog behaviorist that I used to use quite and then used to refer people to, who was amazing, definitely a dog whisperer, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember him telling me that the leash is just an external umbilical cord. And that has stuck with me my entire time with Tonka, because
Uh,
that's basically how long I know Carl, is about 12 years, and that's Tonka's
mm-hmm.
age. And I just remember when he said that, and my coined phrase, which is the leash goes both ways.
Yes.
And so that energetic and emotion, that energetic entanglement, which happens. And I think that was one of my hugest lessons with Tonka, was the fact that I could very much see that depending on where my energy was and how I was feeling affected his behavior. And all of a sudden I thought, oh, it was like this light bulb went off. And so that's when I say they're our best teachers.
Yeah.
He doesn't respond well to stress at all. Not that anybody does, but my old
Mm-hmm.
dog was so laid back, nothing fazed her. Like, she didn't, him, it affects him physically. If I'm stressed, it will
Right.
definitely affect his behavior. And so all of a sudden I was like, I have to figure out a way to, to chill out,
Mm-hmm.
because,
Mm-hmm.
and so every now and then, if he's acting funny, even if I don't notice it, like obviously we said it's energy and
Yeah.
energy, I'll be
Right.
like, oh, I must be sending off, or that kind of energetic imprint, because he's responding to me. So sometimes, even
Yeah.
if I'm not as self-aware as I should be, he forces me to be self-aware.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I love what you said about the leash because when I first started more than 30 years ago, I had a good friend who was an animal chiropractor, and she believed in these health fairs. And you got to come to this health fair. It's great. Come do this. And I did not like the health fair because you would get people who came with their dogs. And because of that whole leash connection, it's like, oh, well, I want a reading. Tell me about what my dog is saying right now. And it was almost like the dog would go, you want me to tell her what? And it's like, energetically, it wasn't a good fit. So a lot of what I do is really long distance. It's been remote for years because it's easier. All I need is a picture and I need the name. And I do need to know if it's male or female because lots of times if it's already spayed, then it's like there's no gender. So in their eyes, there's no gender, but that's how I work in those terms. So yes, what we're putting out there in part of quantum physics, what they find in your brain is what's called mirror neurons. So mirror neurons reflect what's going on, and other people and pets have mirror neurons as well. So they pick up that and they reflect that back to you. Many times you'll find clients, if you ask them, they're like, my dog has cancer or liver disease or something, heart problems that are going on, or stress problems, that if you have a little bit more of a conversation and ask a few deeper questions, you'll find out that this person has the same illness that their pet does.
I've had that
And it's,
experience
oh
also.
yeah. And it's like such a right away. It's like that light bulb that you can, shamanically, it's like I see the cords from the pet to the person, that that's where we picked this up. So that's there.
Yeah.
I'd love to show you a quick little exercise if I could.
Sure.
All right. This is one thing that I tell my clients most often, because who of us has not taken our pet to the vet and had some horrific news that happens, right? And you now have to think clearly in which to do this. And so what happens to our bodies is we get all upset and we get tight and we're in there, and that's when our animals will react. They'll act out to whoever's trying to help them because we're uptight. So one of the first things I tell are, to help calm yourself, your animal, and it's not just the vet, but it's a perfect example, is you're going to take 3 deep breaths. May not do them all right now, but you're going to breathe in deeply in through your nose and exhale out your mouth. Nice. Now take your 3 fingers. You're going to connect your fingers to your heart. You're going to put those on your heart. And now you're going to do those 3 deep breaths. You can close your eyes or you can keep them open. And you breathe in slowly. And exhale. Breathe in again slowly. The key here is to really inhale as deeply as you can, and then exhale it all out. And we'll do one more together, breathing in and exhale. Now, physically, you feel like your body has just calmed down. You've made this connection to your heart. And so now you're connecting to your heart instead of what's happening in your brain. But the vet may come in and say to you X, Y, Z, and you're like that deer caught in the headlights, because it's like, wait a minute, what do you mean? So here's an easy way. Everything that we have goes in our frontal lobe. And so if you're not getting it, and this happens with people who've been in natural disasters, either flooding or tornado or something, and somebody's got to question them, or even unnatural disasters, and horrific events that happen, that in order to tell the story, if you put your fingers to your forehead, you are bringing that thoughts and those actions right up to your fingertips. So you tell yourself that story either out loud, or you just say, gosh, give me a minute. And you kind of, this is what you're saying. And you say it back to them. And if you take your fingers off after you've kind of said that story and you said, did I get that right? And the vet says, like, well, no, and they explain it to you again. And if you're still confused, you can still do the same thing. Give me a moment. I'm just getting this straight. And all you're doing is bringing those facts that are already there at your frontal lobe up to your fingertips, and you're giving yourself a chance to really soak in at a level that you've already calmed yourself. And when you calm yourself, and this is fun to do with your own pet when it's um, try it when it's quiet first in your household, breathing at least 3 to 4 times with your fingers on your heart. You're training them. They'll do the same thing. The mirror neurons, they'll let out the last breath. They'll start to relax, and you'll see them relax and go as far as you need to totally relax your body when you see them relaxing. So once you train them to do that in the quiet, then when you have something that's going on and you start to do that to your own body responds quicker, and they get the cue from you and they start to respond as well, and they have the letdown response. But when you're hearing something that you're not quite getting at all, that's a good way to really let it sink in your brain, and so that you're getting that understanding, and then you're able to deal, okay, now I've got what you're saying to me. And it's not just with, you can use this with people as well. You get into a hospital situation. It helps you to kind of get everything clear.
Well, just as you're talking about breathing, I know because one of the things that I do is I'm a yoga teacher and I've been teaching for 20 years. But even if I'm not teaching or I practice, what's always interesting to me is that when I have my yoga voice, as I call it, and I
Yeah,
also, my breathing obviously is very focused on my breathing.
yeah,
And I would say most often, if Tonka's around and he comes in, he totally, I mean, he'll be unsettled if somebody's outside, but he'll
yeah, yeah.
eventually kind of lay down and
Mm-hmm.
totally zone out. It's
Yeah,
like, and I always think to myself, oh, yes, I'm using my yoga voice and my breathing's really calm and he's
yeah,
just responding to that energy.
right.
But
Yeah,
now teaching on Zoom for most all my classes except one, it's so interesting to me because so many of my students have pets and how often their pets come and if the doors are
right.
open, will end up in
Yeah,
that space.
yeah.
It, they want to be a part
Especially,
of it too. It's
that's
like,
right, right. You get to downward dog, and they're like, oh, oh, yeah, I know this.
that's right. Yeah. I have a magnet on my fridge that says yoga comes natural for some, and it's a dog doing a downward dog. And
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah. And it's so funny to me every time he does it because I'm like, it's so true. And so I do love the idea so much. I think that people think that, people who use, I want to call um, alternative or natural therapies, it's kind of like they don't do anything traditional. Well, and so I loved when you said that you can do both, you know, and there is space for both.
yes, yeah,
And I'm going to, and that's why even my vet who does both. But
right.
if she, if my pets need surgery or medication, that's going to happen. But also like, other modalities like chiropractic and acupuncture
Yeah.
and Reiki and all different. And I think we need a combination of those to truly heal.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Whether we're pets or whether we're people, we need all of that. And I truly believe in finding your own divine inner wisdom and guidance for that, because too many times we give our power away to who we think the authority is on that. Do they have many years of training? Yes. I mean, you have a scientific background, which is wonderful, but you're also open to going, oh, okay, there may be something else that's going on. So let's look at both. Let's not throw out all of it, because all of it's got some validity. Heaven forbid if I was in a car accident or I slipped and broke my arm or something else. I want to know that that surgeon is going to be there for me when I need them. And when I don't, then I know that the elderberries are growing in my yard and that I can make elderberry syrup, and that's what I'm going to use for a cold when that season comes on. Boost up my immunity. I'm going to stand out in the sunshine when it's a bright, nice day and get my vitamin D. So, yeah, there's a lot of different things to work in harmony in this world. And, there's a whole shamanic part of plant spirit medicine and really calling on the spirit of the plant. You think, how did people discover these plants? Because all medicine is a base of the plant. How did that happen? How did they come about with that? Wasn't by trial and error. A lot of it was the shamanic ancient way and their own innate ability to read the world around them, and
Mhm.
understand that awareness and perception.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always interesting to me coming from my science background when things like that, like the real shamanic or what I would label maybe more folklore medicine or whatever, depending, but however you call it, is then proven in a scientific study. But I'm always like, yes, because historically, I really do know that they did what they did for a reason. And
Right.
that those, if it was a specific thing or specific herb or plant or oil that they were using, they would write it down and they would then
Right.
pass it along to, villages, family members, or whatever. And when that's kind of confirmed by modern science, I always get
Yeah.
super excited, even though I don't need it, but I just enjoy it. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, it really just further emphasizes to me how wise
Mm-hmm.
people are if they really do get in touch. And I think that
Right.
that's really one of the things I work on very hard is like, really, what is my gut telling me?
Right.
And I always, I was asked by a friend of mine once, what would you like to give people? Like, what is and I said, I would love to give people that back because I think people have forfeited it and kind of passed it along
Right.
so that they basically don't have to take responsibility for
Yeah.
anything they do. And they can just say, well, I don't, this isn't my responsibility. I'll just go and be told what to do. But it doesn't
And
work like
that's
that.
no, and it's a shame, and it's a real shame. And I think the world is starting to wake up, and that there are a lot more people out there who are going, okay, I there's this doesn't feel right the way we've always done something, so it's got to be something else. And it's not an either or again. There's a balance and a shift, and it's just discovering what has more balance to it, what's going to make more sense in the long run. And if you can't trust anyone, can you trust yourself? Can you start with, like you said, that gut feeling? And all of us have that. You get the goosebumps on your arms when something's right. You get the kick in the stomach when, oh my God, my gut, this doesn't feel good. Yeah, oh, I'm feeling kind of sick on this. And that's, your own body inner wisdom and guidance.
This has been so wonderful. And I so enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah.
And
It,
maybe just before we end, Lesley, tell everybody how they can find you.
the best place is to find me on my website, Intuitive Animal Healing, which is a .net, not a .com. So Intuitive Animal Healing. And my email is Lesley at intuitiveanimalhealing.net. Same way. Um, those are kind of the website is the best way, but I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, so a lot of different ways.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining
Thank you.
us today. And we'll have to have you back sometime.
Okay. Thank you.
You've been listening to Pets, People, Life, and Longevity, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch every episode at exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and wherever you find podcasts.